What are kind of the things after 400 podcasts, 8 million downloads, would you say were the things that you nailed and the things that you've gone, oh man, I wish I'd known about that a bit earlier?
Welcome to the Creative and Code podcast.
Welcome to the internet, my friend.
Brought to you by ID Digital Agency.
Kind of a big deal.
Dive into the dynamic world of digital marketing, creative design, and coding with top experts, latest trends, and actionable insights. Let's get inspired and innovate together.
It's showtime.
Hey everyone, and welcome to a new Creative and Code. My name is Jay Boston and I am from ID Digital Agency. Yes, Emily is not here again today. The last time she was unwell, she had COVID. This time she's just got too much to do. Luckily for her, she's going away 2 weeks earlier than everybody else on her Christmas break. So she knows she's got lots to do, and she said that she couldn't make it to today's podcast. So unfortunately, you're stuck with me, but we do have an amazing guest, which we're going to get into straight away. His name is Adam Ashton. He's got a couple of books. It's called The Shit They Never Taught You. It's by Adam Jones and Adam Ashton, who is going to be here. He also has a second book called Attitude. You can buy these online in a digital format, or you can get them at stores such as Amazon. They're amazing, and you're going to hear about what those books are about today, as well as his podcast. He's had 8 million downloads of his podcast, over 400 episodes. So for those that are thinking of starting up their own podcast or have one and they're wanting to learn from an absolute legend podcaster, then listen up right now. Here we go.
You have my curiosity. Now you have my attention.
Adam Ashton, thanks for coming along, being part of our podcast. How are things?
Good. It's great to be back on the mic.
Yeah, well, that's what this is all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
So this book that you brought along came out of the podcast, I think, didn't it?
Yes. So
so tell me about that quickly. Yeah.
Yeah. So we did
Adam Ashton. There's your name.
That's
there.
me.
Yeah. And
Adam Jones.
Adam Jones. Yeah.
So we started a podcast in 2016. Back in the, I think early at the time we felt we were late to it, but looking back, I was like, oh, that was pretty early. So we started podcasting in 2016. It was very, very simple setup. A mate and I, we used to meet up for coffees every Friday morning, and we invited some girls along. It was our first time in the city, and we thought, well, maybe this is an excuse to meet some girls. And then after a couple of weeks, the girls stopped coming, and it was just Adam and I. And so we thought, okay, well,
why did they stop?
Obviously, we weren't interesting enough.
No, damn.
And so it was just the two Adams, and we started chatting about books, and then we were chatting about what podcasts we were listening to, and then we figured, well, we're kind of meeting up once a week anyway. Let's just chuck a mic between us and go
the
from
girls
there.
might come back. Is that what you tried to do?
Well, that's what we're hoping, and 7 years later, didn't pay off.
Sorry to hear it, mate. But I mean, the objective there was, I guess, to get together and talk about something that you love. And then you've had a huge following, and you've had some pretty big people on your podcast.
Yeah. So we did it for 7 years, had over 8 million downloads, and then spun out a couple of books off the back of it. Interviewed a couple of prime ministers, some of our all-time heroes as well, in terms of authors and marketing people and business people, and it was amazing.
Did I see you had Simon Sinek?
Seth Godin was one of my favourites. A couple of prime ministers, Kevin Rudd and Malcolm Turnbull, and just some really, surprising that people would talk to two 20-something blokes from Melbourne who had no rep, no name, and it was great. Yeah.
So 400 or so episodes, was it, that you've done?
Yeah.
And looking back at all the things that you did or didn't do at the start, and podcast is such an important thing for businesses these days. We do it because we want to learn more about what our clients are doing or what our team are doing or what other people are doing with podcasts. So what are kind of the things after 400 podcasts, 8 million downloads, would you say were the things that you nailed and the things that you've gone, oh man, I wish I'd known about that a bit earlier?
Yeah, there was definitely plenty of things we did right and plenty of things we tried and we were either too early or just were bad ideas. We probably too early tried to monetize, I think. I tried to either get sponsors or do memberships or try to sell stuff, and we probably weren't ready for it yet. And it wasn't until probably 3.5, 4 years in until we actually started making any money off it. So it was very much a passion project, a hobby for 3.5, 4 years. And then we started getting some sponsors. And then we didn't really want to rely on sponsors. We wanted to try to, sell our own thing. And that's kind of where the idea of the books came from. And we ended up selling
The shit they never taught.
The shit they never taught you. I think about 15,000 copies so far of the books, which is pretty good for like a ridiculously sized book, as you can see.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
Is this like
it's
big?
pretty hefty. It's 700
huge.
pages, and then we spun it off into the smaller one, both self-published. But then the smaller one actually got picked up by Penguin.
For those that can't see, it's called Attitude, and it's vision, change, learning, fear, boldness.
Yeah,
cool.
And then so that's been translated into a couple of different languages as well. So that was a cool sort of serendipitous thing that just sort of popped up.
Amazing. So, and where can people? Is it Amazon?
Amazon. Look for Adam Ashton. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So way back when, what was the whole premise of the podcast? Like, I think it was about reading books.
Yeah,
and
books.
reviews.
So that was sort of our morning Friday morning coffee dates. Was we were talking about the books we read, and then we thought, well, we're both talking about different books. Why don't we at least read the same book, and then we can at least talk about the books? And then we're like, okay, well, let's just like make a podcast episode where we talk about our favorite bits from the books. And then it was pretty raw. It was pretty janky. There was, episode 3. I think my then girlfriend was cooking spag bowl in the background, and you could hear all bubbling away.
That's not bad. It's got some
little clinking
atmosphere
and stuff. And eventually, it was pretty raw early on, and eventually we got a little bit more serious, but never taking ourselves too seriously. But so we did a book every week. We'd read a book, and then we'd go through the best bits and share sort of the best ideas from sort of all broad range of spectrums: business stuff, marketing stuff, psychology stuff, and then the other Adam kind of ventured into other, history, politics stuff, and I had to bring him back towards the marketing and business stuff. But it was a good mix of everything.
And having those types of books being presented and reviewed, did you find that people that were watching were saying, you should read this or you should read that?
Definitely, yeah. The list kept growing. So at home, I've got like 4 bookshelves. And they're all full, and I'd only read like 1.5, so I've still got a lot of books still to read.
That's unreal. And I think you finished it up when? It was about
it was probably 18 months ago maybe.
Oh, not too long ago.
Yeah. Probably a year, just over a year ago, probably middle of last year. We wrapped it up.
Did you decide books was just a bit hard? Or?
So I had a kid, and they take a little bit of time, and then the other
just
Adam,
a little bit,
the other Adam had a startup which sort of took off, and took up a hell of a lot of his time as well. So it was probably just the timing was that we both sort of thought the podcast takes up a lot of time, and we've got these other things that take up a lot of time. So that one, the podcast got put on pause indefinitely.
Well, good. Like it could come back. Who knows?
Exactly. Yeah.
Once the kids are out of nappies and things like that, you might have a bit more time.
Yeah.
But going back to the first episode and the first couple of episodes, I guess too, you're not going to get many views, and we know that's going to happen. How did you find that you started to get more views? Was it the quality of the podcast? Was it being some of the guests then promoted it? And what did you find was a way to promote the podcast?
There was definitely a few noticeable changes. So the first was, we started doing it a little bit differently, so the quality of the episodes were better. At first, it was literally the 21-minute episode took us 21 and a half minutes to do, because it was just like hit play,
pause it,
talk shit,
hit
stop, upload, and that was it. And then we eventually sort of started to edit out some of the ums and ahs and edit out 30 seconds of rambling, and and then we sort of started doing it maybe sections and having some transitions and stuff. And so we never got like super high level production, but we just tightened it up so it was easier to listen to. So I think that definitely helped. I think it just showed that we were taking it a bit more seriously and it was a bit higher quality. And then the other was getting some guests on. So like Seth Godin, big marketing guy, that was a big one. There's been a lot of times that we probably got people that we thought, we sort of thought, let's get this person because they got a big audience, they'll share it, and then we'll get a big audience as well. But a lot of times we were a no-name and they're a big name and they didn't really share it. So it was more probably just that credibility of having those big people on were pretty good. Every now and then people would share it.
You saw the spike in those areas where because you'd mentioned their name as part of your podcast name and episode name.
Yeah, definitely. And then it was probably just the quality of books as well. If anyone was looking for a book and they searched it and we'd come up, I think the search definitely worked in our favour. If people were looking for specific guests or specific books, and they'd find us,
Yeah, so it could be that a guest name, someone's searching for it, and it's there's a podcast where they've appeared that can come up and
there's obviously that's probably like that. The people searching for you, they find you, they check you out. there's going to be a hell of a lot of them hate it and drop off, but there's going to be a small percentage that think, oh, this is pretty cool, and then check out another episode and maybe stick around.
And initially, were you posting episodes out on social media and Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups?
Initially we probably did a lot more of that stuff, and then we didn't see a heap of positive, like nothing. It didn't really. If we didn't post 1 week, we didn't see a drop off or anything. So, but eventually we sort of built up a bit of a team of freelancers around the podcast. So we had like someone who'd write a blog post, someone who'd do all the social media stuff, someone who edited the podcast, someone who did sort of the graphic design. All people from all over the world that did stuff for us, and it meant that we didn't have to do it, which was good because it wasn't our interests or strengths. We just like doing the podcast as opposed to all the stuff around it.
This is because you were able to sponsor your podcast and probably get paid for it as well, that you could put those funds into other people to help with promotion and things.
Yeah, that's right.
Amazing. It got to that point.
It was pretty cool. We ended up doing a couple of Christmas parties just down the road here as well, actually, from where we're sitting at the moment. Which was kind of cool to get the team together of people who no one had ever met each other, because we just it was all virtual, all online, and
And did you find when you were doing the podcast, were you and Adam in the same room together for most of it, or you were, except obviously during COVID or whatever, you were?
Yeah, I'd say close to 100% of the episodes, except for I remember one episode where we did a trip to Bali together. I fell off a motorbike, came home early, and then we still had to record that week. So we did one virtually, and it didn't really work as well. So all the ones that was about books, we all did together. There was interviews sometimes if there was 3 of us on the screen. We wouldn't be next to each other, but 100% minus one episode of the books, we were face-to-face,
And the technology we were talking about before, the quality of it as well. For instance, right now, we're just on a couple of Rode mics, Podcaster Pro, with an iPhone smacked into it.
Amazing.
And it's simple. It's an easy setup. When I was researching to try and figure out what I wanted, I was like looking at huge Canon or Sony cameras and mics and all kinds. It was going to end up on $5,000-6,000 or something. Plus, we've got a client of ours. We've said podcasts are great. They're good for backlinking. It's good for creating content that people can consume on your website, etc. He went and bought $25,000 worth of equipment.
Wow!
And I'm like, fair enough. Like, you've probably got the money to do it, but you don't probably need to start at that point. What do you feel is the hardware and the software? As a bare minimum, to have a high quality product?
So our very first one was a Blue Yeti. It was about the size of this, I'd say.
Yep.
And you plonk it there, and that was it.
It was just like a microphone.
And it was it's like a 360-degree mic.
Yep.
Maybe $150, I'd say. And that was kind of it. Literally a USB mic that we plugged into our laptop and recorded it.
Yep. But you didn't do video, it was all audio.
All audio.
Yeah.
And I reckon we used that mic for the first year and a half.
Wow.
And then, probably a year and a half in was when we thought, okay, let's get the next bit. So we got like a mini version of that deck there that was probably, smaller than this book, that you could plug 2 mics into it. So we had individual mics then. And then that kept us going for another 2.5 years. So it probably wasn't until 5 years in that we got this bad boy that you've got as well.
Amazing.
The Rodecaster Pro.
Yeah, 2.
Yeah.
I think it is. I don't know.
We had the number 1.
Stuff. Yep. Yeah. But no, that's incredible. So it just shows that you don't have to have the best mics or anything. As long as you've got good content and good guests and there's a good substance in there.
Totally. I think there's like a bare minimum level. Like if it sounds like you're in the basement or you're in a bathroom and it's echoey and your wife's cooking spaghetti bolognese in the background, then that's probably like a no. But as long as you sort of meet that minimum threshold where people can hear you clearly, then I don't think the quality, going from 98% quality to 99.9% quality, isn't going to make or break.
Exactly. That's the thing, like Casey Neistat as an example too, he still only outputs at 1080p, even though you can go all the way up to 4K, sometimes 5K now. And he's just like, the majority of people are on their phones. So I don't want to have to waste all that file storage space and stuff as well. And we're doing this in HD at 1080p.
Yeah.
4K, if you edit that, it's about 10 gigs for a 1 hour show.
Wow.
On a HD, it's about 2.
Yeah.
So you can imagine the storage and the exporting and everything is just better, and people don't notice. So I think it's great that way. So and then like with the weekly episodes that you were doing, did you have a particular, like, you have sections of the podcast, or was it just you get straight into the guest? Or
it was very
not the guest, sorry, because you had the two of you doing it.
Yeah. So we very much had, if we say we were discussing a book, it was pretty book dependent in terms of the structure. We sort of got a little bit better with. At first, we thought it was like, let's just like give the best ideas and like the best quotes and stuff, which made sense to us because we'd already read the book, and then hearing the quotes reminds you of all the things that you read. But if you're hearing it for the first time, like just the quote on its own doesn't mean that much. So then we thought, a book this fucking big, like it's just full of stories and studies and examples and references and all this stuff that doesn't really matter. Let's just get to the juice of it. But then we actually realized that it only kind of makes sense with some of that substance, like to hear the story and then learn the lesson sticks a lot better than just getting smacked over the head with the lesson. So that's when we kind of thought, okay, how do we get the right balance of the stories and a bit of lightness and a few jokes and a few like examples that people will know from companies or famous people, that you can kind of tell the story, build the tension, and then get to the lesson, and then people will actually, then it'll actually stick. So that's when we sort of put a lot more time into the prep. Like say for us to do a half an hour episode would have taken, 10 hours reading the book, probably 3 hours taking the notes of the book, and then another 2 hours back and forth where we'd sort of each do a round or two of like stripping it back, cutting things, moving things around, and then we'd talk through it for an hour before, and then we'd hit record. So it's
and
like
would you
15
share the
hours
edits
would go
and
into
things too? Or,
yeah.
And then you had people that would do that for you.
Yeah,
afterwards.
exactly. Yeah.
Cool. And the book itself, the shit they never taught you, is that all those kind of books combined to find all the juice out of those, the things that you learnt or the things that
that's right.
You wouldn't normally learn if you didn't think about it?
Exactly, yeah. I suppose the premise came from like, when you're growing up, obviously you've got your parents, you've got school, you've maybe got, if you play footy, you got your footy coach or your scout leader or whatever community organisations you do, but everyone's kind of, it's in a sort of limited scope, I guess, that everyone kind of lives around the same areas, kind of done the same jobs. And whereas when we were reading books, we're like, man, there's like, professors from overseas, and there's like intense scientists who have done 30 years of research on one niche area that like you'd never get exposed to unless you seek it out. Exactly. So for us, it was like reading all these books, we learnt so much outside of the normal scope that we're like, well, this is all the shit that they never taught you.
Exactly. You see a bunch of that stuff now, but it's highly tailored to you on TikTok and stuff. I'm scrolling through, and something that I'll say right now in front of my phone, or I don't know what it is, that I have never thought about before, you'll start seeing that stuff on TikTok. But it's the things that you don't necessarily think that you want to learn, that you learn and find fascinating, and that's what this book's got in it, I guess. So,
So I think it was, from memory, 115 different books. Like, we took the best bits and we kind of mixed and matched and like combined the lessons, whether like, maybe there was like 5 books that all kind of said the same thing in a different way. We kind of combined them into one, or in some sections there was one book said this and one book said the exact opposite, and we're like, how can these both be true? So we're trying to find out, how did they work together, or how do they complement each other as well? So we went 9 different sections. So there's like a marketing section, an entrepreneurship section, a career section,
it's
and
amazing.
6 others.
It's kind of those things that when you go to a dinner party, for instance, and there's no chit chat, you could throw something out of this to say, oh, did you know that radioactivity was whatever it is, right? You're just like, it'd be fascinating. Kind of the Sheldon Cooper from Big Bang Theory. He comes out with these one-liners that you'd never think about unless you did it. So is that the kind of premise as well?
Yeah, definitely. We did it in a way that some people, if it was me, I'd read cover to cover, front to back. Just because I'm a bit of a completionist like that, but it's definitely in a way that there's 115 different chapters or whatever that you can just flick it open to any page and it'll make sense.
It's so good. And plus, a lot of people with low attention spans, 115 different chapters in a size this big. It's probably 10, 15 pages each.
Yeah, some of them, some are 3 or 4 pages, some are a bit longer, and you learn something for every chapter.
I want to read. Yeah, sounds good. And so that's what you were doing as a podcast, but obviously as well, you were supporting yourself through other means as well. I noticed that you worked at And Mine for a while, the agency. I think I knew a couple of guys from there. Jeremy, I can't remember his last name now. He dated
Big
one
Jezza?
of them. Yeah, he was a big guy. He lived in Toorak, and I think his mum worked as a florist. I can't remember.
There you go.
I don't know. But he married one of my friends, and now they're living somewhere else and had babies and whatever.
Nice.
So it's weird how the world works. But how did you find? Were you doing And Mine and this at the same time?
Yeah. So when did we start the podcast? 2016. So I was actually working at ANZ Bank as a graduate, and then. So the whole time the podcast was always on the side, moved to a couple of different jobs, and then found my way through marketing, digital marketing through the agency, and had this going the whole time. And then moved to Peninsula Hot Springs in digital marketing, and the podcast kind of followed me everywhere I went.
Yeah. And that's interesting. You're now one of our clients, which is fantastic, and loving every minute of it. How did you find at Mine moving from where you were very much spread probably over multiple clients to now you're working for a client effectively and only on one, I guess, offering? Are you finding that's better for what you're looking for, or are you? I know probably Jackie's going to be listening to this, but I'm just interested to see, like, you could be either spread over multiple things and doing things which sometimes it could be clouded because you're distracted on things, or you can be focused on one thing dedicated. Like, how did you find working on the differences between them?
I think for sure early career, because I was doing banking and finance, and I went to logistics. Then it was kind of my first marketing proper job. I think that agency environment was like the best way to learn, because you are exposed to, instead of just one problem with one company with one problem and sort of one job that you could sort of do. This was, potentially 12, 15 at a time who all did little bits of different things. So you got an exposure to all sorts of different problems and all sorts of different jobs effectively. So learning wise, that was incredible. And then sometimes you kind of feel like, okay, we're doing as best as we can in this one very small scope that you've given us. But, there's 80% of stuff that you're doing that we don't see that, could be done better as well. And so there was definitely pros and cons. And I sort of had the idea that, if you're in an agency, you got 15 different clients, and then if you go to one client, it's going to be so much easier, but not necessarily.
No, because you still have the same amount of problems. It's just they're all with one instead.
Yeah.
And the good thing, you've got such a solid team with Amelia, Ash, Jackie, Mike as well in IT, and all those guys. And they all, I don't know, for some reason, I know Peninsula Hot Springs is meant to be a relaxing place, but when I work with everyone's just vibing that as well. Yeah. Everyone's pretty chilled and understand that you've all got your own things that you have to do and you all have to deliver. But there's this, you can go off and do a fire and ice session if you want to at lunchtime.
Exactly,
And I know Jackie does it too. And that's the type of client or customer we love. And it's great that you found a place like that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, most of the time you're probably working from home too. It's a bit of a travel down that way.
2 or 3 days on site, and every time I'm on site, make sure that I get a sauna in that day. Yeah.
Join the sauna squad. Yeah. And we're trying to get a sauna in down there with you too.
I didn't realise that event was going to go for so long.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll find another time before Christmas that we'll catch up. Yeah. No, this is great. And then, so with Peninsula, you've been there for just under 2 years, I think it has been. And what's your main thing that you do at Peninsula Hot Springs? Yeah, so in digital marketing, so I suppose website, email, social, paid ads as well. So they're probably the main scope of the role. Yeah, and I'm guessing as well, talking to customers and hearing them out and hearing what their needs are, and then applying that to the higher up in the hierarchy of what you think would be sticking. So, How do you find your decision making and things? You've got enough of that to keep you quite humble, quite happy with where you are. Yeah. No, it's been a great mix and a great first step out of agency land into. I don't know if it's the dark side or the light side. Depends which side you're on, I guess. It's great that we've got that a strong team. Everyone works together really, really well. Like everyone talks about team culture and stuff, but I feel like this one is super strong. Good. And everyone's kind of got their own roles, and everyone sort of performs at a high level that. No one really steps on each other's toes, and everyone knows that you're going to get it done. And it's amazing. Like 5 or 6 years ago or whatever, I visited the Peninsula Hot Springs for the first time, and I'm like, it's funny. Like when you own a business, I'm always looking for places I'd love to do work for. And when I went there, and I'm like, I'd love to be able to do stuff for this company. And I can't remember. I always forget what it's called. Where you it starts with M, where you meditate or whatever, or
manifest.
That's the word I'm looking for. I'm just like, one day I want to work with these guys, and we can do great things together. And it's happened. And it's a great group of people. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't know how, but it happened. So, it's good. I've got to keep manifesting for some other things, maybe like Qantas for some good flights or something. So,
Car company.
Yeah. Do you ever get the itch to go back and reignite the podcast? And is Adam keen on it at all? Or
I think the podcast in the form it was probably not. I think if we could do it, because we're doing 1 a week, sometimes 2 a week if we had interviews as well.
It's a lot,
It's also like, though, I don't know if we did it 1 a month, if it's not enough then, or I don't know. But every time there's a new book launch from one of our favourite authors, I'm always like, man, we should probably bring it back just for this one episode. Yeah. But other book writing and stuff as well is definitely something that I keep in the back of my mind going back to, because I feel like I've scratched the surface with these couple now, but there's so much more that I want to do as well.
Yeah. No, and I think there's a lot of potential there. And the podcast, just in case anyone's going for it, mention...
Yeah, What You Will Learn.
Yep, What You Will Learn. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's available on all still. And you haven't turned it off, it's there.
No.
And that's the beauty, I guess, of podcasts, is it's there forever.
I did just realise I tried to check the website before. The SSL certificate has expired, so I better fix that one up.
Yeah. But you're still getting visitors, viewers,
yeah,
all that.
Yeah. We probably had we sort of got up to maybe 150, 180,000 downloads a month.
Still.
At its peak.
Oh, at its peak.
And then now it's probably still around 30 or 40,000 a month, even a year and a bit later.
Jeez, dude, you got to revive that.
Yeah.
There's so many. And that's the other thing too. Podcast is such an important thing these days from a global point of view. Podcasts, Joe Rogan, for instance, he pretty much got Trump elected to be president. And Kamala Harris, she was meant to go on but cancelled.
Yeah.
So
I heard that she... what was he saying? That she would do it, but he had to go to her, and it was only 45 minutes or something. Which obviously his is in his studio for 3 hours. So
and he's never done it outside of the studio too.
Yeah.
Except for his space shuttle thing. But that was short lived. But what was going on there?
Yeah.
But I can see podcasts and being able to communicate and collaborate, especially in such a digital world, is so important. Even though a lot of, I don't know if you've seen the technology lately, but soon you'll be able to have AI podcasts that you don't even have to do anymore. You just feed the AI all the information that you want to talk about.
Well, Seth Godin, I've brought him up a couple of times, marketing guru, that he actually, for his podcast, he did a full episode that was, you listen to it all the way through, it was like about AI, and then at the very end, it's like, this has been an AI, so he had the AI of his voice, and then, the AI did the rest.
Isn't that phenomenal? It's scary, super scary.
Yeah.
Let's get into a speed round.
Oh,
just quick answers. We might talk about them afterwards, but I know you've got to go soon. So here we go. Creative or code?
Creative.
Favorite? Hang on, Emily normally does this, and Emily couldn't be part of this podcast because she's run off her. Anyway, she's got a lot of work and she's going on holiday soon. The last episode that we did, she told me that she's leaving on the 6th or 7th of December, and I'm like, my God, you got things to do. So she's doing her job, which is good. Favorite design tool?
Favorite design tool?
Yeah,
Canva.
Yep.
Weak.
Favorite website?
PeninsulaHotSprings.com.
Cheesy.
Very cheesy.
How many hours a week do you work?
35.
Yep, standard. App you open first every day?
It was Duolingo for a while there, but now probably the podcast app. Actually, still listen to a hell of a lot of podcasts.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, quick little. What's your podcast you always go to if you see the episodes out? What would it?
Tim Ferriss is on there. Malcolm Gladwell is on there. Seth Godin used to be, but he just repeats old episodes now, so he's got the boot. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Dark mode or light mode?
Light. I should go dark.
Mac or PC?
Mac, but unfortunately we're on the old
PCs at Peninsula Hot Springs.
But definitely Mac.
I'll have to change that. Yep.
Yeah.
Work from home or work from office?
Hybrid.
Hybrid. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Favorite font?
Whatever. I forget what font we use for this. Just a nice, simple serif font.
Like a handwritten one,
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a Times New Roman.
Yeah.
But
just a
modernised.
basic. Yeah.
What's more important, design or spec?
Spec.
Spec, nice. What's your favourite snack while working?
At the moment, Kiwis, but only because I bought a 10 kilo box of them from.
Got to get through them.
So I got to smash them out. Not normally.
10 kilos?
Yeah, it was a bargain. $8 for 10 kilos.
Wow.
So big box, but there's a lot of Kiwis still to go.
Jeez, pineapple on your pizza?
Absolutely.
Summer or winter?
Summer.
City or countryside?
Hybrid.
That's all these hybrids. Yeah. Last question: time travel into the past or into the future?
Future, but not too far.
Yeah. And why is that? Where would you go?
I feel like if you went too far, it'd be unrecognisable. But maybe 50 years would be nice.
Yeah. I have no idea what would everyone just be working from home?
I don't know.
Everyone's scared about illnesses.
Yeah,
And I don't know, it'd
everyone's
be a
got-
strange thing.
Everyone's got chips implanted, and we're just off the. Maybe the physical form is no longer, and we're just all digital.
Listening to generated podcasts.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, thanks, Adam, for coming through. Really appreciate it.
Amazing.
And all the best with the book, The Shit They
Amazing.
Never Taught You. You can get at Amazon and other bookstores, as well as Attitude, which is a mini version. Is that
That's
a couple
right.
of less chapters, I'm guessing?
Yeah, there was instead of going wide, we went and we went deep. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thanks, mate.
Amazing. Thank
That was
you.
good. That was
Cheers.
awesome. Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to the Creative and Code podcast.
That's all, folks.
We hope you enjoyed this episode and found it as inspiring and entertaining as we did. Remember, there are plenty more episodes to explore, so make sure you keep listening for more creative insights and coding tips. A big shout out to our amazing sponsors and the team at ID Digital Agency for making this podcast possible. Got a story to share or want to be a guest on our show? We'd love to hear from you. Send us a 2-minute or less audio clip to creativeandcode@iddigital.com.au. Suggestions, ideas, or just want to say hi, we're all ears. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, stay creative and keep coding.